Good evening, all. Ira Epstein with your SPDR ETF wrap-up, and this wrap-up is for Tuesday, the 28th of December, 2021. Wow, 3 days now, and then we're into the new year. I, for one, enjoyed this year. I don't know about you. This was, I think, a great trading year in SPDRs and ETFs. For those of you that are my paid subscribers, I think you got your money and then some worthwhile. I did find trading in them easier than in the futures markets. Can't tell you that I know why. The chart patterns held up better. It was just something I kept noticing over and over, and it was regular that I kept saying it. So fascinating. Not every year is that way, but it was certainly there. So now what we have to worry about is, what do we do next? Well, I'm going to be adding, as you know, this year a couple of things. Like today, I'll say goodbye to my friend AMC. I'm adding Disney for a little bit here. And I'll do that over and over. I'll get rid of ARK fairly soon. She had a terrible year, as you know, trading. Those investments didn't come back. I think it was 160 at the beginning of the year. So it's one of the few big name people that manage money that the public is enamored with that had a hellacious year. Now, 1 year doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything down the road necessarily. 2 years, then it starts changing. So I can just tell you, Kathy, I've been around this 51 years. Not saying that I'm as good as you or not as good as you. I'm saying you can't put strings of losing years together. You lose the people. I think you know that. Okay. XLF, we've talked about it. I said this is a chart that likes to leave gaps. So that's the first thing you understand with it. I like this because if we're going to see the economies come back, and I think they're all going to come back quicker than most of you think, by the way. I'm deciding where am I mentally in these markets. I think Omicron is not going to be the disaster Delta was. I think Omicron has the replacement capability of Delta, and if it's not as bad and it stays strong enough, maybe a variant can overtake it. We don't know. I like what I'm seeing with how the world, not just the U.S., is adopting to this. 5-day quarantine in the United States. Airlines are now pushing. They don't want their people, they don't want their guests, I'll call them, their travelers, to necessarily have to wear masks on the plane. I get that because of the HEPA filters. They're very powerful. But I do think the airlines have it wrong. I think to get on an airplane, I think you have to have a COVID test. And I think it should stay that way probably into the spring. That's my own opinion. Why? Because then it's safer. Now, obviously, they've got to figure out a way where the people don't have bogus, oh, I got tested. I see that all the time. Fake IDs in college. Come on, we all grew up. Most of us guys that wanted to go drinking, we were playing back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Oh, I'm that age. Oh, sure. Well, it's the same thing with this. So it's just the way life is. All right. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying the financial services, this is one of the years that if interest rates can come up a bit, the spread increases. I am not of the school of thought that you're going to get all those rate increases that you think. Number one, I think the people that President Biden is going to appoint to replace the outgoing voting Fed members. Remember, there's a rotation that goes on within the voting members. I think he'll be picking people that more in line with what he wants to do, and they won't be as hawkish, if you will. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. But higher lows, higher highs, you've got getting a crossover. The 18-day average, probably tomorrow, is going to jump over the 100-day. I've been looking for this to see if it's going to have any impact on the market. And that's one of the reasons I brought it up this week. So if it does, will it be able to push the market? And if it does, can it get it up to the upper Bollinger Band where the market, I think the pros are waiting to take some money off the table? Momentum up, bias up, a potential bullish crossover. Will it do that? Obviously, the best laid plans, there's always an exit that doesn't work, and I would say taking out 38.74, probably that exit. Now, Apple's still a darling for many companies, but Apple's got its hands full. They have to now start worrying about Facebook, the metaverse, whatever they call that Facebook's changed its name. I saw today that Apple's increasing bonuses to keep staff from jumping ship because of artificial intelligence and all the other areas that the Facebook company is trying to create to take them on. Just things you got to think about. Disney. So many people get worried, what has Disney got? Before streaming came about, a major franchise, be it restaurants, hotels, parks, I can go on and on. They're movie franchises. Now the streaming networks that they've gotten, what else will they get into? It's a very well-run company. Looks to me, I feel this is basing. And the reason I say that, I'm not of the opinion that when we get to the spring and summer, that those parks aren't going to be open. They will be. And I think that there's such huge pent-up demand that there's also going to be the opportunity for them, as usual. Gets expensive. I mean, if you've taken a family to Disneyland, the only thing that's not merry about it is your bill. It's really expensive, and that's going to be the problem. But it's at a resistance point. I'm watching it in an uptrend, getting overbought right here. FB, the meta platforms. Okay, not metaverse, but meta platforms. You're up at a resistance point. So you're in between the 100-day average and the upper Bollinger Band. That is very often where a rally stops. So you're overbought, not embedded. You've carved your way up there. Be a bit careful. In XLI, the industrial sector, you got up high enough to take out these highs. So you're out of the downtrend. You're not in an uptrend. What you're in is a vertical price rise. Let me define that for you. Markets come down, and in this case, hits the lower band. And then each day, it not only goes up, but it takes out the prior day's high completely and just keeps doing it. Well, how do you catch a move like that? I'll give you the secret. You don't. What you did is you got out if you were bearish down there, but you didn't catch that if you're a trend trader of any type. That's just a move that goes on its own. I call them vertical price moves. I don't know how to catch them. I'm sure that a number of you have a way. You can write me about it. I'll study it. You can do that on YouTube. XSD, higher high, lower low. Resistance should be up here. What else do you see? Vertical price move. Again, starts from right there. That is often the case. You had a vertical move attempt. It happened here, but not at the beginning. Here when you hit the bottom, and that was where I think the pros got out of their shorts, then the market came up, lost its embedded reading here, and that's the kiss of death. Once that happens, I'm looking for the 18-day average of closes, which is just what I got, and that's where the market stalled. Then XHB. Now, home prices, they're going up everywhere. I mean, the days of going back to the office as you think isn't coming about anytime soon. And going back to the office will have a new definition. Are you going to be permanently back in your office or not? Manufacturing's a different world. They need you in that facility to manufacture the goods and so on. But those of us that work in offices, what I do, I don't see myself ever permanently sitting back in my office. I spent 50 years doing that. I'm really happy now with working out of my studio, but I want to see my staff. So I envision that we will go back to our office, which I still pay rent on, and I'll meet with my crew, and we'll brainstorm a little bit, and we see each other. I think that's going to be the importance, and that's where I think we're headed with a lot of companies. So you got to think about that. And what does that do for homes? Well, if you're doing what I just said, you want more space. And that's one of the things that keeps the home prices going. In the energy sector, did you see what Mexico said today? Mexico announced today via Pemex, which is their state-owned oil company, that come 2023, they're not exporting oil anymore. They're out of the business. They're keeping their oil for them. So you talk about going protectionist. You talk about wanting to control the energy flow within their country. Well, there you go. So that falls into the OPEC hand again, gives them more power, because any oil that was being exported by Mexico could have come to us or elsewhere. They're not exporting it, and we need oil like that. We're buying from them in Russia again. Just how it's going to work. Telling you, the U.S. energy plan stinks. We've got to make an alter. We've got to alter it in some way to make this a better plan for ourselves. Okay, the next chart, let's get back the other way. Here we are. EEM, emerging markets. I said yesterday I thought the market had gotten to a point where it's going to run into trouble, and I think that's where you're at. The market corrected off this big break. It's come up there. I don't see a thing in that chart at all. In gold, you're not going to stay over that upper Bollinger Band very long. What gold has going for it is psychology. The word inflation is on everybody's mind. And it's rightly so. As I was talking in one of my other videos, I was saying how the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which basically has a monopoly for all purposes on most of the markets you're trading in America in futures. They really do. The ICE has very few markets. It's them. And they just announced a series of price increases. There's nothing to stop them. That's what I hate about giving so much power to any one exchange. I really wish the Board of Trade had stayed separate from the Merc. I always liked the competition. Now there is none. I think the Merc doesn't consider, in America at least, ICE a very important contender for much of anything. And I think that we're seeing the reality with this series of increases on fees, quote fees, so you got exchange and so on. And what does it mean to me? Maybe we should follow the CME stock a bit. You know, something that just dawned on me. We're going to. They see these increases start hitting their bottom line. A lot of them go into place in February. So let's say that we'll see that by the summer quarter. You know, as we get into June, we'll see the impact of that. It's not going to be bad. It's going to kick that up. Okay, that's first thing I'm saying. You're up to a lot of resistance, but are you embedding here? So let's take a look. Both numbers are over 80, both are over 80, and both were not. Tomorrow's the key day. I have been telling you that I think the base metals are going to get really bid up now. And that's because, and I could be so wrong, I think the Omicron becomes secondary very soon. Soon being February. How's that for me sticking my neck out? I think we'll have peaked out in January, and I think that in February, as we get ready, I know it sounds so crazy, but in parts of the country, we start warming up again. You know, we're just into winter, and I think you're going to see some interesting things develop. So I'm looking at this very hard, laying out a game plan of what-if scenarios. Let me tell you about a what-if scenario. Make them, lay them down, but stay a chartist. That's my what-if scenario. Oh, gee, that's coming alive. What did I write down about that? Do not trade and say, oh, that's why I'm making this trade is because of that what-if scenario. That's the kiss of death. If you ask me what my stomach feels and how that works out in a trade, I'll take my chart knowledge over what I feel every single time. My intuition. And I've done this 51 years. I'll take my chart knowledge over my intuition most of the time. Not always. Depends on what it is. After 51 years, you have pretty good intuition. You've seen that game. It's not your first rodeo. But when you're investing or trading, you got to be careful of what you're doing. It's one thing to follow your intuition. I don't want any part of this. I don't want to trade. It's another thing. I'm going to trade because I think that market's going to go up. Lower low, higher high, nothing in copper. But copper's also rejected all these lows. That's important too. By the way, I just saw that China, and I'm writing about it for tonight's research for my full research people in futures. They've laid out their new growth plan. They're just releasing it now. 5% is the target growth for 2022. A lot of it comes from the property sector. They're attacking that. The government ministries, everybody's going to attack and build that again, and also financial stimulus for it. So it's got a little quib about it, Dow Jones Newswires, and I'm going, whoa, 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 that's important as can be. And I read it there, and I think I also read it in Bloomberg. Like I'm positive I read it in Bloomberg, their nightly recaps. I read so much. There's so many sources. FXE, that's about as sideways as you could get. So you put it together, you try to come up with a game plan, and I want to be your guy for that. At 9 in the morning Central Time, that's 10 Eastern Time, it's 7 Western Time, I sit down Monday through Friday and I record 40 different markets. I change the markets. And on Saturdays, I'll record another series for you just weekly charts. So I'm going to give you 40 different charts, each one of these, and I put them in the section so you can easily watch what it is. I want to give you my thoughts on the market. I want to be your go-to guy. Some of the markets I cover are like this, but I'm rotating now. I told you. I've asked you to write me what you want me to cover, and I'm doing it. You see Disney's here. You see I'm covering XB. I'm going to keep moving around the place. I just mentioned the Merck. You can count on it. I'm going to do that. ICE Exchange, got to look at that too. But it's the Merck that's going to be the big one. So I take a look at all this and I say, okay, what can I do for you first thing in the morning? Well, unlike here, I am saying, here's where I want you to buy. Here's your stop. This is what I want you to do. I'm looking for the market to do such and such based on the picture that you're seeing. So I'm laying it out on the chart, giving you the guidance. A lot of you that are subscribers will write me and you'll say, Ira, can you take a look at this and tell me what you think? Often, not every time, I can just do it in a squib to you, or I'll create a short video, be under a minute. I'll take the chart, rip it apart right with it there, email it to you, boom, you got it, and away you go. You're not getting that from other people for these prices, and it's me doing it, not a staff. How do you get it? Just go to our website, under the word research, take advantage of it. I'm Ira Epstein. You have a good day. Talk to you all tomorrow.